Brothers and sisters, in Mark's Gospel and in John's Gospel, we are introduced to the adult Jesus, whereas in Matthew and Luke, we have the infancy narrative. So we read from Mark's Gospel today. And the feature of Mark's Gospel stresses the journey of Jesus from Galilee to Jerusalem, from the land of glory to the place of destiny. Galilee, he did all the miracles, he was loved, and so on and so forth. And in Jerusalem was the place of destiny where he will be crucified. And 1/3 of the gospel is about, in Mark's gospel, the 1/3 of it is about the last week in the life of Jesus, beginning with the triumphant entry of Jesus into Jerusalem and culminates with the empty tomb on Easter Sunday. The last week of the life of Jesus begins with the celebration of Passion Sunday or Palm Sunday. It commemorates the solemn yet triumphant entry of Jesus into the holy city of Jerusalem. And the people acclaim with the word Hosanna. They are shouting Hosanna. This word Hosanna simply means please save, or rather save now. There's an urgency about it. For they are hoping and praying that Jesus would be the one to save them from the power of imperial Rome. That's the context. That's the context. There are many teachings in today's long gospel. Many teachings. But there is one teaching that I would like to draw to your attention. In John chapter 11, there is a discussion among the Sanhedrin, among the leading figures of the Jewish institution. And it's about Jesus, and they say, he is a troublemaker. If nothing is done about him, the whole community would be infected, would be destroyed. There is a character which we remember by the name of Caiaphas, the high priest at that time. And he says, do you understand it is necessary for one man to die for the people in order to save the institution? You remember that, no? Right? So, whether it is just or it's unjust, it is necessary to kill the one who is the problem. And so, they labeled him a criminal. They labeled Jesus a criminal. When they put this label of a criminal on Jesus, now they seem to justify the crucifixion of the innocent one. So in order to save the institution, we must destroy the one who is the troublemaker, irrespective of justice. And we call that the Kaas Principle. And that happens to us as well, no? It happens to us. In some ways, if you reflect, it does take place in our journey of life. There is a tendency for us to do that. Once we put a negative label on certain people in our society, it becomes much easier for us to dismiss them. Once we put a label on Jesus, he becomes a throwaway person. A throwaway person. He became a throwaway person in society, in community, in the establishment. And so consider this. To those who we label as throwaway persons, who are those people? That's a teaching for today. No? Who are those people? Do we sit down and talk with them? Do we feel their pain? Do we try to understand their loneliness, their isolation? Do we have a sense of belonging to the one who is marginalized, whom we have labeled as throwaway people? For that is the invitation of the Passion of Jesus today, to feel with Jesus, the throwaway person. Brothers and sisters, many people who called on Jesus as Hosanna, Savior, save us now, with urgency, later would turn to him and shout, crucify him, crucify him. The Jewish leadership stirred the people to call for the death of Jesus because they were fearful that at this time of the Passover, the tens of thousands of pilgrims who came to the holy city may be influenced by this troublemaker, so to speak. And so they said, crucify him. How do we respond ourselves to these events of Holy Week and the call or the cry that we say today, Hosanna, and later on this week we say, crucify him? How do we respond to this? There is another response which is worse than the shouts of crucify him. And this is an attitude of indifference. Indifference. Indifference is worse. What a worse kind of attitude? Indifference. We remain spectators when we see all that is happening around us. We don't make a stand, and that is why we are spectators. Indifference. It is not my problem. Let's not get into it. Leave me out of it. But that's not the call for Holy Week. That's not the call. A reflection for us to bring home. The opposite of love is not hate, but indifference. The opposite of education is not ignorance, but indifference. The opposite of art or beauty is not ugliness, but indifference. The opposite of life is not death, but indifference. It has nothing to do with me. Where do I stand in the crowd today? Where do I stand in the crowd? Take this reflection home as we journey in the Holy Week. Okay? All right?